Hello everyone, welcome back to our geometry class. Today we are going to continue our conversation about the circle, and today our focus will be center angle and the inscribed angle. So before we start, before we introduce the center angle and inscribed angle, we are going to talk about a new definition called arc. So what is arc? Arc is part of circle between 2 points on the circle. So as you can see, arc is kind of part of the curve on the circle and defined between 2 points on the circle. So as you can see, sometimes arc can be this little piece. Let me use a different color. This piece here, and sometimes can be this whole large piece. They are all called arc. And just want to remind you, we do, like I mentioned, in geometry, we always use different symbol to replace all different things. So this little piece here, we can just write down the endpoints AB and use a little curve to represent arc. So this is the arc symbol. Please remember that. From now on, you don't need to write the word arc AB. Instead, you can just put a little curve on the top to indicate this is arc. So since I mentioned, arc can be this little piece and can be even the larger piece here, then how do we tell the difference? That's going to be the next part. We're going to tell there's two types of arcs. But before that, let's quickly review a fact. So for arc, we can also define the arc measurement. We can see how many degrees for this arc. But before that, there's one fact we need to know is a circle as defined is actually the whole circle is going to be 360 degree. However, semicircle, half of the circle, as we all know, is going to be 180 degree. Okay, so that's a definition, and this is how we define the circle and semicircle like this way. So please remember, this is the basic feature of the circle. Do not forget that. And we are going to use this one to actually define what I mentioned, what we mentioned before, like a smaller piece or larger piece. So for the arcs, as we mentioned, we can define this one as two types. One is called minor arc, the other one is called major arc. And minor arc, we compare to the half of the circle, semicircle. If this is less than half the circle, it's called minor arc. And we always use two letters to indicate this. So for example, this is going to be AB. Or any piece of this, for example, AC, as you can see, also less than half the circle, so it's going to be minor arc. For major arc, we compare to half the circle. If this is greater, like wider than the half of the circle, then this is going to go called major arc, and we always use the three letters to name it. But one thing I want to remind you, orders does matter. What does that mean? That means, for example, if I define this piece of the arcs as arc ACB, then you have to go through this order to define this. I'm going to change the color to make it easy to see. So for example, this green piece here, let's just use green to make sure it's clear. So ACB, I'm going to follow the order. So it's from A to C to B. So that's ACB. But if I define, for example, if I define A, B, C, then I can now just go through A, B, and C. You have to follow the order. I'm going to use a different color. So A, B, C, from A to B and C. As you can see, even we use the same letters, the order different, then I'm talking about two different major arcs, right? So please tell this difference here. The order does matter for these three letters. Okay, so that's one thing I want to remind you. Next, we are going to talk about the main topics today, which is central angle and inscribed angle. Let's check. So central angle is actually defined by its location and the side of the angle. Central angle, the location of the vertex is actually on the center of the circle, as you can see here. And then the two sides of the circle are formed by two radii. So as we mentioned, radii is a plural for radius, two radii. So any point, as long as the vertex is on the circle, two sides on this, this is called a central angle. One thing I want to remind you, students might say, is this called central angle? No, it's not. Remember, central angle, the vertex must be on the center. So this is not. So this is called a central angle. Still, as long as this is angle, we still use this symbol to indicate. And this angle, I can just call this BAC. The vertex is always in the middle. Do not forget that. Okay, so next we are going to say, since we talk about the central angle, then how do we know the measurement? What's a relation for this measurement? So central angle as a very special relation between the central angle and this piece of arc measurement. As you can see, when we have a central angle, the two endpoints of these two radii actually concluded a smaller piece of the arcs, and this is called intercepted arc. I'm going to repeat. As you can see, the two endpoints of this two radii has concluded a smaller piece of the arc. This one is called intercepted arc, and intercepted arc, the measurement is always equal to the central angle. What does that mean? Check this example. If I know this central angle is 80 degrees, then that means this AC, as you can see, this piece of the arcs, the measurement is also 80 degrees. They are equivalent, okay? But one thing I want to remind you is when we use M here, this is actually the measurement. The measurement of the angle, the measurement of the arc. They are equivalent. Okay, so this is what we do for this. In the next video, we are going to introduce the inscribed angle. Thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you very soon in the next video.